Welcome back to the shop. Been a little bit of a hiatus here lately. I've been pretty busy, but finally saved up enough money to buy my own sawmill. We settled on a Logosol B701. It's their newest sawmill. It kind of fits all the check boxes that I've been looking for. It's portable. It's storable because I don't have a lot of space to keep this stuff. So this will actually break down when I'm not using it, because I probably only saw maybe 5 or 6 times a year. If I'm lucky, maybe now that I have one, I'll get to saw one more often. But anyways, let's get to the video. As you can see, I was using a little parts bin there to separate out all the screws and everything, and it really helps out. It really helped me out keeping everything kind of straight, because there are a lot of bits and pieces to this. The rails went together pretty easily. First section, I pretty well followed the instructions. Instructions in this are not the best. So we've got most of this assembled. We've got the rails put together, putting the bunks in, and the instructions say to slide the nuts into these pockets here and then fish the bolt through and tighten all that up. And basically that's what I did on this side. But going back to my days in my former life where I did a lot of extrusion assembly, I decided this would be better to put this all together, and we'll just slide the bolts in there, slide it down where we need it, and tighten it up. And then doing that actually worked out pretty well, especially in the confined space that I'm in here. The weather was not conducive that day to move stuff out of the shop and work outside. It was stormy, so we did the best what we could. Worked out we had just enough room to work and not trip over ourselves too bad. Here I'm just putting some dunnage underneath, and they have some brackets to install those, which is pretty straightforward and simple. That's the other thing I like about this sawmill, is everything is very simple. There's not really too much to go wrong with it. And I have quite a bit of experience with aluminum extrusion, so I have some working knowledge of how this stuff will behave and stuff. Again, I can't iterate how much the instructions on this were not very good. And there I had trouble figuring out which post that the scale was supposed to go on, and I wound up putting it on the wrong one and switching it out. You'll see me do that a little bit throughout the video, where I've put some together and I have to take it back apart. Probably if I didn't have to take everything back apart twice, I probably would have had this put together basically in a day, but it is what it is. So I went back and forth a lot between the video on my phone and the instructions, which helped quite a bit. But there were definitely some points that, if you had a more in-depth video of each step with some audio, because the video didn't have any audio, would have helped quite a bit, probably, to explain how certain things go together. Here we're just putting the head unit together, and I just discovered that I missed 2 screws, so I had to put those in real quick. And then there's the main saw head actually assembled. And you have to take off some rollers so you can set it on the rails. We had moved the rails outside temporarily, and here we got it sitting on the rails, and I'm just putting those rollers back in. I think if I were to do that again and I had enough help, I would just take the end plates off the rails and just roll it onto the rails and put the end plates back on. I think that would work out quite a bit better. Excuse the dogs barking in the background. And here we're putting together the rest of the, I'll call it the cage, and basically this is where the lift mechanism attaches to everything. And you're just building a cage around where the motor's going to sit, and all that goes together. This actually went together pretty well. There wasn't too much guesswork in this. I was just trying to make sure you got the crank put on the right side, because the directions are more or less situated backwards, in my opinion. So I kind of put this together the same way from the pictures. So you wind up looking at, this would be the back of the saw, basically, and the operator side is the front. And then you'll notice I forgot to put 2 brackets in here, which was a bit of a problem, because you have to put T-nuts in those slots. So that's where I put the blue tape in there to keep those from falling into Never Never Land. And then we were able to loosen everything up enough that I was able to drop the T-nuts in and then line it back up and get those brackets put in. Alright, so it's the next day. We quit last night with... this is pretty much as far as we got. We're down to setting the lift mechanism, which is these cords that you see hanging here. We'll get those set is the next step, I believe. And then I think it's attached to the engine and the saw blade stuff. So we're coming along. So to reiterate, this is day 2, and I went through and separated out parts for the next step again in my little parts organizer that I had. I would buy just for this purpose, I would buy a bigger parts organizer just to keep everything straight, or have little bins or something or other, but that definitely helped out. And then here I'm just getting the band wheels put together. I actually had to go buy some snap ring pliers because I couldn't find mine. And then we're just putting the blade cover together here. That was very straightforward. It's very well thought out, actually. You know, they have to make this thing shippable, so everything has to kind of fit in the crate. And that worked out pretty well. I would definitely read the manual several times and watch the video several times, and if you can, read the manual and watch the video at the same time, so you have some idea of the next, basically the step you're doing and the next step, so you understand where you're at. And that understanding did help out quite a bit, and I kind of understood how things worked. This handle was a little bit fussy to put in. It wasn't too bad. And then we're finally ready for the engine here. The thing said to take the guard off and install a little flange, exhaust flange. I did not have that in the box, so I wound up just putting it back together. And then the instructions were a little bit shaky on how to put that plate on there and which bolts to use, so I kind of winged it, and I wound up doing it the correct way. Just getting everything in there was a little bit tight. They're just installing the drive pulley. It's actually a centrifugal clutch. And then I had a little bit of trouble with the belt there. I didn't have it set quite right, so I did end up getting that set in there okay, and the tension worked out pretty good. It's kind of interesting that they use the drive belt as one of the tires on the band wheel. It's a little bit different that way. So my battery died in the middle of that, but we did finally get the throttle set up. So here's the hand throttle set up, how that's supposed to look. There is quite a bit of slack in the throttle cable, but this has to come up and down because the head moves independently of the saw head, or of the handle, I should say. And then your cable gets routed down through there and connects back in there. It's a little bit confusing to me because I'm not a small engine guy. I'm a wood guy, of course. So that part is complete. The next step will be to put the saw blade on and start doing alignment there. I have to get oil for the engine and add some gas, and then we'll be cooking with gas. So here I got the saw blade put on, and I'm just using a straight edge or a level setting on the blade to try to get this thing to line up. There's a lot of back and forth and just little adjustments here and there just to get it all tracking straight and get it running straight. I do apologize I didn't get a very good video of this step, but you get the gist that I'm back and forth a lot, and you just follow the instructions. The instructions on this were actually really good. They do kind of walk you right through step by step how to get everything lined up. And once you get everything lined up, then you put the guide wheels back on, and you have to line those up so that they're running true as well. That wasn't too bad. As we got it running true and parallel and flat and all that good jive. I've got oil put in the tank, or the engine. I've got some gas in the tank, and we should be ready to fire this dude up. So let's move us toward the back here. Not completely in the shop. Try to get you a good view. Sorry, the shop is a complete disaster at the moment. Choke. So there it is, folks. Logosol B701. This is what probably I think this is their newest sawmill. I am waiting on a few things. I did not get the log clamps like I was supposed to in the package, so I got to see what's going on with that. I am missing 2 bolts for the scale here. There's supposed to be a little gauge here. Other than that, it is ready to go. I also have a wheel kit coming for this that basically lets you use this like a wheelbarrow. So once that comes in, I'll finish the video, and that's history.